Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching the special Christmas Eve Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. And global's where I want to start off in this particular video. You're here looking at the Himawari 8 satellite. This is run out of Japan, looking down on the ash and smoke plume that is coming from the Krakatoa volcano over the past weekend. And it was amazing to watch this from space because honestly, it looked very much like a large convective plume, like a massive thunderstorm complex. But this was the eruption that, of course, caused that devastating tsunami that hit this same region, so far claiming hundreds of lives and injuring thousands in Indonesia. Now, from there, I want to take you to Australia. Now, remember, Australia is transitioning into summer, and we've seen over the last 3 days over 200,000 lightning strikes. Now, remember, this particular spot in here in Queensland was actually quite dry going into spring and early summer here, but they've had a lot of thunderstorms. And this particular video over here on the right was shared widely over the weekend with some of the hailstones falling from those very powerful thunderstorms there in parts of Australia. Now, in addition to that, I was just kind of looking around globally at some satellite imagery, and this just blows my mind to see this. This is India, and what you see here in this color, that is all smog and smoke and pollution and the air quality issues that are going on right now in the Ganges River Valley coming into Bangladesh here, where the Brahmaputra River comes in. I mean, they're just bad. And this is just the way it is in this part of the world. But I wanted to show you what that looked like from satellite as we're kind of doing this world tour here. And where I'm going to finish our world tour is by taking you down to South America. This is in Santa Catarina. What you're looking at here, this is right over on the Atlantic Ocean side in southern Brazil. Beautiful shelf cloud coming in on some pretty powerful storms, and that's where we really got to start digging in. And when we watch this animation, remember, we've been talking about how we've seen a weakening of the Brazilian monsoon. You'll still see showers in that area, but overall it's been a weaker monsoon. It's been really wet on the north side and wet on the south side. You kind of see a drawing there that I've given you multiple times over the last couple of weeks. Now, what I want you to watch at the end of this is I press play, be paying attention here to some of the heavier rainfall events coming through Argentina, like that one there, getting into southern Brazil, which is right in through here, because that was where we were most concerned. See it there? See all the convection in that area? That was where we were quite concerned about the drier time period, that if it lasted, we could see major hits on the crop. Now, certainly for some of the early season, the early planted beans, it was kind of beyond recovery, but this changeover, the recent precipitation, the thunderstorm activity is going to be a very positive thing for Brazil's growing regions here. So I wanted to show you that drier time period appears to have come to an end. Now, when we look out over the next 15 days, you do still see Brazil's northern growing regions a little bit drier than average. But remember, the monsoon is still going. Nothing has shut that down. We see wetter than average conditions just to the south of it and wetter than average conditions in much of Argentina's major growing regions. So this is that shift that we talked about. And that shift was largely being controlled by what phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation we were in. Now, remember, when we are talking about North America, phases 3 through 6 are the warmer phases, and phases 7, 8, 1, and 2 are the much colder phases. Now, we're going to come back to North America in a second. When it comes to South America, remember, phase 4 and phase 5 are dry. And we can see that we're going out of phase 5 into phase 6, 7, and 8 here with the Madden-Julian oscillation. And that is a return toward, more active convection in this part of the world, and hence more thunderstorm activity. Now, what does that mean for us in the United States? Well, as we continue to move toward phases 6, 7, and 8, this is the number one thing I'm concerned about. The higher the amplitude, which means the farther it goes out here into phases, especially 7 and 8, that tells us that the probability of us being cold, especially through the first half of the month in January, even farther, are relatively high. Just remember that MJO tends to go in this counterclockwise fashion, just like this, on around. So let's kind of get into our U.S. forecast here. What I wanted to start off with was kind of a view here of our GOES 17 satellite. Remember, this is a brand new satellite, and what you're watching here is an animation in the day on Sunday. So this is sunrise right there to sunset. Now, what's amazing about this, you can see the tilt of the Earth in action. Notice how parts of central Canada only get a couple hours of sunshine. It looks like most of Alaska and northern Canada get none at all. It's just that time of year. But look at the storm systems that are lined up in the Pacific Ocean. And also, something really kind of neat to point out here at the very end of this. This is just kind of a neat little bit. Let me get this all the way to the end. Can you see the, look at this, see the ship tracks? You can see them right over there. Maybe color that in white. See the ship tracks over there going through the stratocumulus cloud deck that is kind of off the Baja of California. So that is basically a diesel exhaust from ocean liners getting in and seeding some of the clouds there, making them a lot thicker. A really, really cool effect there, discovered by a man by the name of Toomey, called the Toomey effect. Really kind of neat. Okay, let's get beyond that and get right into this pattern. Now look at this. We have got multiple shortwave troughs that are just lined up, ready to rock and roll, coming around the flow of the atmosphere just like this. And as I highlight these, the one that I really want to pay attention to first, let me erase my drawings here, is this one right here. That is going to be the shortwave that eventually digs here after Christmas right into the Four Corner states and initiates the development of a very, very large low pressure system. This also signals a bit of a pattern shift. So you watch this with me, okay? As I click play, there it goes. So here we are. This is now, the noon on the 24th. This gets us into the early morning hours of the 25th. And this gets us into the early morning hours of the 26th. Now we see this deep trough sitting right here over parts of Arizona and New Mexico, and then a large ridge out ahead of it. Now what does that tell me? That tells me that there will be an abundant amount of moisture coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico underneath this trough that will be used to create a massive winter storm. And that winter storm will really get going in the in the daytime hours on the 26th, but in the overnight hours of the 26th into the 27th. And we'll look at what the pattern tries to reestablish itself to look like for this last week of December. We're going to tend to feature more often than not a trough over the southwest and ridging out east. But watch the pattern change here. You see that by the time we get into New Year's, we now tend to get into this pattern where there's a ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, a trough out west, and this kind of weaker ridge over the east. And as we progress beyond there, we see the whole pattern evolving like this. Now, we've been talking about, I feel like for several weeks, that we knew that the cold air was going to be returning to the eastern half of the country, while this ridge was probably going to set up here, all because of the development of a trough that's going to initially start here and progress over toward the Gulf of Alaska, shoving that ridge out west. At the same time, we can see here a big ridge building in this area. So it's going to be starting off here and building in this area as we progress into the first week of January. And that just spells for the eastern two-thirds of this country an active storm track. This spells much, much colder than average weather. And we're going to take this, we're going to try to understand what it means as we get to middle of the month of January here in a few moments. Okay, but first let's talk about the other major player. This is the current position of the polar vortex right now. You can see that it is placed pretty far, not only to the north, but it's actually over there kind of in northern Eurasia. By the time we get toward the beginning of the new year, look at the displacement that happens here. So this has now got the main branch of the polar vortex elongated, weakened, stretched, and displaced. And when that happens, cold air is going to spill somewhere. Now, what we're waiting to see here is if this is going to really interact well with what the Madden-Julian oscillation says, and if we're going to be able to connect this sudden stratospheric warming event that's happening here with the weakening of the polar vortex, allowing that cooler air to really propagate into the troposphere and then down toward the surface. As it stands, it looks as though this is going to happen and going to help kind of really reinforce this deeper trough feature that will be over the eastern part of the United States. So let's come back to all that in a few seconds here. Short-range forecast next. Now watch this. As I animate forward, this is the weak little system. See it over there in the Ohio River Valley? That was the system we talked about coming through the 23rd and 24th, the beginning of the 24th. So there it goes. Got some lake effect stuff up there in parts of Michigan as well. Now, as we progress into the day on the 24th, things are relatively calm because of high pressure that will be in place over the southeast. But you watch the flow kind of return around this. Ready? Here we go. See that? And therefore, by the time we get into early in the morning on the 25th, this is about 4 a.m., look at the lighter precipitation spreading through parts of Missouri into Illinois and over in Indiana, with some lighter snow to the north of that. Now, the trick will be to see where that changeover will be. Right now, the latest model runs are keeping the warmer air, south of the line that I just drew there, keeping this whole region seeing light rain rather than light snow. But any subtle adjustments in that could possibly bring some snow showers a little bit farther to the south. But it looks like parts of Iowa, southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, and over toward Michigan are going to be getting some light snow on Christmas. But overall, if you are east of the Rocky Mountains, this is not a bad travel day. But watch this. Let me just step back there. Watch now the West Coast. Oregon getting smacked hard with that upper level low as it comes in here by 5 p.m. on the 24th. Spreading across Nevada, Idaho, Southern California. Now we get into Utah, Arizona, Four Corner states. Look at the position of that upper level trough, and this system gets cranking. Now this is valid 7 a.m. on the 26th. We've already got snow building in the northern plains. You can see the moisture advecting here out of the south, and this is just going to blow up and be a big, big winter storm. Let's look at it here. So here's the operational European model. Now let me just get you through what we've already discussed. Here is the beginning of the morning on the 26th. And this cyclone, by the time I get you into the morning of the 27th, is well established right there in central Kansas. And we will have plenty of cold air on the backside of this to be producing quite a bit of snow. I expect a severe weather threat to be down here in the southern part of the southern plains, but really go over to the southern Mississippi River Valley, then moving on off toward the south and east. And for those of you that are in southeastern Iowa, but definitely Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, this one is going to be a rainfall event. So this is the big cyclone we've been talking about now for several of these videos. Now let me get rid of my drawings and show you how this one progresses. So this is early in the morning on the 27th. Here we get into the evening on the 27th. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a legitimate blizzard threat in this section. We have got strong winds in there, and we will have snow, and this, that's just what we've got. Okay, so we got to watch out for this one, and that's just the beginning of it. I'm only going to take you out a week on this, because to take you out beyond that with how volatile the Pacific is with all those troughs is not very good. I might be able to. I don't want to show you something that doesn't materialize, but look, you can see the next round already coming into the Pacific Northwest. This is an extremely active pattern, and we've already known that this section of the country has been extremely wet so far this year. Well, we're just going to be adding to those rainfall totals by the time we get to the end of this month. This is the pattern we've been talking about evolving here. Now, talking about snowfall, this map shows you the European model and all 51 members of its ensemble, giving you the probability of seeing at least 6 inches of snow. Now, when you look at this, we're looking for these colors up here. That's greater than 85%. And you can clearly see that if you have a snowmobile, you need to get it prepped, because we will have plenty of snow for that post-Christmas storm system. And just for poops and giggles here, I want to show you the 12-inch probability. And you can see that in parts of Nebraska, South Dakota, getting into Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, we have some locations that have better than a 60% chance of seeing more than a foot of snow. So this is a big cyclone that is coming through, and it'll be a fun one to watch here. I just hope you don't have any travel plans in that region in the middle of next week, okay? All right, let's finish this up by taking a longer term look at our temperatures. Let me just show you the pattern evolving. See that big warm surge there? Don't think that that's going to be like, oh, let's get out and have shorts and t-shirts, because all that warmth coming up here on the 27th is full of moisture, and it's going to be raining like mad in this area. So this is not going to be pleasant. It's just going to be windy and wet, but warm at the same time. Progressing forward, look at the trough establishing itself. Look at the cooler pattern transitioning over for that first week of January. And what I want to finish with is I want to show you this, okay? We're now looking at is mid-January, and I've gone out here with the European model, the weeklies, and we're looking here at the ensemble 500 millibar heights, and you can see that trough I mentioned here. That puts the ridge in this area, and this is what I think I'm going to see out of this pattern. A very strong subtropical branch of the jet stream. And if that sets up, this area, of course, stays cool, but it also stays very wet, an active southerly track. But you can see with that ridge in central Canada that will continue to hang on to some warmer than average conditions if the European ensemble's got a good handle on this. And I'm going to tell you something. The U.S. equivalent of the European ensemble I'm showing you here is called the CFSV2. It absolutely wants to bring in a massive blowtorch of heat to this area. There is major model disagreement. The CFSV2 is out of line with what the MJO is doing, what the polar vortex is doing, but it's just kind of a monkey wrench that I'm going to have to pay attention to. So we have some big uncertainty in the longer range forecast going beyond the first probably 10 days of the new year. So I'll watch it carefully and keep you up to date on what we're seeing seeing here, but certainly things are getting active in the short term. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next update coming out just after Christmas. In the meantime, have a very safe and Merry Christmas. Thank you.